Hi, book lovers. I'm Ashley,
And I'm Kendall, and welcome to Bound by Fantasy.
a channel all about books and bookish things.
Today we're going to talk about A Court of Wings and Ruins. This is the big book where basically everything happens, and we're going to break it up into three parts, just like the book. So make sure you watch all three parts. And this is part one, so you're right where you need to begin. All right, so drop the bomb at the end of the last book where Feyre is the High Lady of the Night Court
Yes,
and she like fakes it that her and Reese's bond was broken and that he was tricking her this whole time and goes back with Tamlin to save her sisters. Lucian kind of knows, but obviously he's not going to say anything because of Elaine being his mate and Elaine's with in the night court with everybody else.
right.
So now it opens up with I I thought this was an interesting scene because I didn't get too much out of it. The scene with Reese and like the war in the beginning and how he's like walking through the field of the soldiers and he's like making sure that none of them are Cashian. And
Right.
I was just like, this is kind of just random. And I'm like worried that it's going to mean something in the future. So,
Yeah, no, I kind of forgot about it, honestly. Well, and so the other thing too is that like in the copy that I had that I read for Court of Mist and Fury, that one um had an excerpt from the next one, but I don't think it had that in it.
yeah, I don't think it does.
So I
And
like when I went to go read this one, I was like, oh wait, I didn't read this, but then I was like, well, where did I read? So I actually like grabbed the other book and I was like, okay, where did this land and where did this pick up? So that was kind of interesting that there was an excerpt from the next book, but like it was missing part of it.
right,
So yeah, I thought that was an interesting. Usually, like if there's an excerpt from the next book, you would get like the full excerpt up to a certain
right.
part, and then you're like, okay, I can pick up from here. So I was kind of glad that I like read it anyway. And then I just sort of like recapped a little bit what I had read because I was like, yeah, I read from the previous one. So that kind of threw me off a little bit. Um, yeah, but no, I wasn't sure what to make of that either, that part.
Yeah, I don't know. I know everything is like tied together, so I'm a little worried it's gonna like come back and bite us in the butt.
Yeah,
Um, and we'll talk about why I think that later on, but we won't get there.
sure.
So, part one is basically all about Feyre being in the spring court and kind of like making her way into the court and kind of upturning it. And so she's in this spring court, she's painting again, she's pretending that she's fine, everything's fine. And she's using her glamour to hide her tattoo that makes her a high lady.
Right.
And it's just like, I don't know, I feel like everything's just back to normal. And like
Yeah.
nobody cares what happened. And I'm like, what is going on right now?
Yeah, I feel like you would think that her and Tamlin would have had like a heart to heart and talk about it, but like I feel like that never happened, right? And like Lucian, like you know that Lucian knows what's going on. He's not saying anything, but like they don't really talk about it either. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was super weird to me that like Tamlin didn't talk to her after like everything that had happened, that they didn't have a conversation. It was just like, and the fact that like Feyre and him like were in different rooms now and they were like not sleeping together, which I mean, like, good, but it was
Right.
just like she didn't tell him that she like I think at one point told Lucian like she didn't feel comfortable being close to him or something yet, or she needed to like recover from everything that happened. Which yes, but like I feel like she never actually talked to Tamlin about that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Like you would think that like first thing that would have happened would be like Tamlin would talk to her about it.
Right.
And I just feel like that never really happened and he didn't really like get to I mean, she was gone a while, right? So it's like
Right.
what he didn't ask her like what happened in all that time or anything like that. So I don't know. That was really odd to me. I also like I was
Right.
super annoyed that Feyre went back to just being like this like weak little, I don't know, nothing, like just painting and doing nothing else with their life,
Correct.
right? And like it was so frustrating. I was like, oh, not this again. Like, come on,
Right?
we're moving on from this.
Oh, and then when Ianthe shows up, I'm like, no, just no. You can go fly away and never come back. Like, she gives her like, sorry, I'm so sorry. She was trying to like
Right.
help and didn't know. It's like, come on. You know what you're doing. You knew it
Yeah.
the whole time. You
Right.
are a sketchy person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, and
and
I
then
think
that
they like all kind of see through it, maybe except for Tamlin. I feel like Tamlin's just like, okay, sounds good. Come back
does
in.
not, he does not see her in that light. And I just don't understand. And I don't
No.
understand. And then like we know that Lucian hates her and we found out really why later on. But
Yes.
it's just like why does he like her so much? It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
And to top it off, Feyre gets the news that the deal to get her back that Tamlin made, he sold out his whole court, like as in the army
Oh,
is coming to his court. Like they're going to
right.
start the invasion into the human lands once they can bring down the wall and from his court. And I was like, come on. So then,
Right.
of course, Jurian
Jurian
shows
appears.
up. Yeah. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, what is going on? No, no.
Yeah. So I don't know what it was, but honestly, like fairly early on, I was like, I just have a feeling that Jurian is not a bad guy. Like I just had a weird feeling about it. And so like now that I've read the end of it and know what happens, I'm like, oh, okay. So I wasn't like super far off with that. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It was something like it just felt like he was not as crazy as everybody was making him out to be at first. You know, when they like first saw him, I feel like he wasn't as like unhinged as they sort of thought he was. And
Right.
so I was like
Which
kind of
he should be
questioning.
because he was an eyeball forever.
Right, right. So yeah, I'm like, I don't know, you know, and he also just didn't seem to be like siding with I'm forgetting their names, the two other people that they sent, like
The commanders,
weird.
yeah.
Yeah, the two
Yes.
commanders. Yeah. So he didn't seem to be like really supporting them very much. He was kind of just like sitting in the background, I feel like. And so like
Right.
that sort of I was like, all right, Jurian, is there more going on with you than like meets the eye? I'm not sure. Um, yeah, I feel like he just yeah, I wasn't sure what to make of him, but I was feeling like I don't know, I feel like his story is going to unfold and there's going to be more to it because he just didn't seem to be like supporting the other two commanders like and Hybern's decisions as much.
Right. And they do this whole like they need to go around the wall and they're testing out like those weak spots, right, in the
Right.
wall that actually let people through. And they aren't really saying what they're doing there, right? They're going out. Feyre is going with them with Lucian, and they escort them to around the wall to show them the holes, and they don't know what's going on, and that's always like sketchy. Like,
Well, and they
what are
spend
they
like
really
forever
doing?
looking at it too. Like they go show them one and they're like there for a really long time, right? And then they go to the next one, they just like inspect it and inspect it and inspect it forever. And it's like, what are they doing with it? Um, yeah, I feel like the beginning of this book was like there's a lot of like waiting for stuff to happen. Like I was just
Right,
like, what's gonna happen from here? And also just like I'm like, Feyre has to go back, right? Like she's
right.
gonna go back at some point. So when is that like ball gonna drop? Um, yeah, I was kind of like glad that she was trying to like poke holes in Tamlin's like guards though, because like clearly they had seen what happened to her, right? And like
Hmm.
they were not really supporting Tamlin anymore. And so I think like they still like she was beloved by them.
Hmm.
And so I think she was also trying to see like in that time, you know, they're investigating the wall, but like she's also testing his soldiers in
Right,
that time to see like what's their loyalty while they're sort of like investigating the wall for Hybern too.
right,
So there's a lot of that going on.
right. And then like so the whole time that they're there in this wall, they're obviously she's using her abilities to protect everyone's minds, right? Because she knows that these twins, because it's a male and female twin, they can get into minds like Reese can. And
Right.
she's like protecting them. So she's like burning through her powers because she's spending all day protecting their minds and keeping them safe, even though, like, in a way, they don't deserve it because
Right.
they were terrible to her. But in the long run, she still protects them, which I think just shows her character. And she knows that she needs to keep them safe. And
Yeah.
then you find out she's also sadly looking for the wings, right? Reese's mother and
Yes.
sister's wings when she has time. And it's just like, she's just, I don't know, like I've said it before, she's just so selfish. She, like, selfless. Yes. Okay. And she just does so much things for other people in the midst of all this scheming. And
Right.
then the big scheming comes when it's summer solstice. Like, right? So Ianthe is seen as like this queen, this best
Uh,
person ever, right? I don't know
yeah.
why. And they set up this whole like sun like ceremony, and the sun's gonna crest, and then the light's gonna shine on Ianthe, and everyone's gonna bow down, and it's gonna be this great ceremony. And unbeknownst to her, Feyre moves the rock, right? Moves that little like marker.
Marker.
And
Yep.
the sun goes on the Feyre, and it's like another little dig. These people in the Marine Corps already call her curse breaker because they broke the curse. They freed
Right.
them from Amarantha. They saw how Tamlin was treating her and the fact that she still came back, that she still cares about them. And now in this ceremony, she's bathed in this light. And that's like even more confirmation that like this is like the best person ever. And she's
Right.
what this court needs, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was glad she did that. She was just like a little like fox in the hen house. Like she was just like really playing them all. And like that
Mhm.
especially, like I'm like, I don't know how I feel about playing Tamlin. Like I don't know. I was so conflicted about Tamlin because I'm like I wanted her to kind of like get his soldiers to like go against him, but then at the same time I'm like, well then who are they gonna side with though too? Like who are they gonna be
Right.
supporting? What are they gonna do?
Right.
Um but like yeah, IMP was driving me absolutely crazy. So I was definitely glad about that part. It's like good, yeah, you show her. Yeah, that was awesome.
So obviously it keeps going. She keeps trying to break them up. And then this part, I think she did Lucian dirty. And I don't know about you, when she like wakes from the nightmare, right? And she goes over to
Yes,
Lucian's room, and the poor guy comforts her. Like he thinks like legit she is crying, upset, and needs comfort. And unbeknownst to him, like she talks about it, that she's given like Tamlin sly hints that she might finally be ready for that like part of their life back.
right.
And it was just all to like piss him off at Lucian. And I'm like, my poor Lucian, don't do that.
I know, I was so mad. Well, and like Lucian is just, I don't know, I love Lucian. He's like such a good guy. And he's like, yeah, of course gonna comfort her and stuff, right? And then yeah. Oh, that part drove me crazy. I was super mad about
Huh?
that. I'm like, she's totally just using him and like using the fact that like he does care about her, like in such a bad way. And also like, I don't know, but also like Tamlin knows that he's mated, right? So it's like, I don't know why he would think like I feel like Tamlin also just jumped to like bad conclusions right away too. And I do feel like part of that was on Tamlin. I mean, Pharaoh was exploiting that that Tamlin like
Mhm.
would react like that, right? But I feel like Tamlin also should maybe trust him more. He left his own court, like he has been with Tamlin, like by his side.
Right.
He could be a High Lord himself, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I just felt like he didn't give me a lot of faith in Tamlin and Lucian's friendship either. Just that like Tamlin cares about literally anybody. Like I'm just like, okay, Tamlin, this is one more person you clearly don't care about. So
Right.
yeah,
Like,
I was
come
very frustrated.
on. Like he has no faith. And to tap it off, like Lucian has a mate
Right,
now, you know?
right. What are you doing? Yeah, I don't know.
Kills me, kills me. Um, so obviously they're sent out to the wall again, and Lucian goes and he like brings it up and he's pretty pissed. And they talk about like, can we ever get out of this bond? And they say no. And then this part like super makes me sad is they're they get to a part of the wall, right? And there's the children of the blessed. That's what they're called, right? Yes, children of the
Yeah,
blessed on the other side. And of course, like Feyre tries to scare him off, right? Because she's like, these twins are going to kill them. The
going to kill
twins,
them.
I think the twins even like try to encourage them to come across, right? At one point.
Yes. Yeah,
And then Feyre obviously scares them away and was like, no, they're going to eat you. Like, don't come over
right.
here. They have no good intentions. So she gets them scared away and they're like, okay, great, that happens. And they have to stay over from where they are because it's too far away, right? For all of them to
Yeah,
winnow.
for them to go back. Yep.
So they stay there. Durian said, like, talks about that he has like the unfinished business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that he says he knows Reese and he's fought with Reese before. And he knew, Reese knew that like what was the situation with Miriam and Prince
Drake
Dracan?
then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dracan, however we say that,
Yeah, however you
right?
say it. Yep.
With the trap, and Jurian like knows everything about this, and he says like how Reese is not really the way he is. So like he's like hinting to Feyre that like he knows Reese's like real personality, I
Identity.
guess you can say.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what did what did you think when he was like hinting, like, I know Reese isn't the bad guy that everyone
Yeah,
portrays
see,
him.
like that whole thing like made me think, especially because Jurian was just talking so like candidly. I think they were just sitting around a fire at that point or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about Miriam and Drake, and he was like, I just, want to exact revenge on them or whatever. And I'm like, sure, like that makes sense, I guess. But,
Right.
I feel like he was saying, like, I have nothing against Reese. So, I was like, at that point, I was like, I don't know. I really think that Jurian's got like his own agenda here, and like maybe he's really not a bad guy. And he also like talked about the children of the blessed and that like he was glad that Feyre tried to scare them away
Mm-hmm.
too. And I'm like, that just shows like his character is not what everybody's sort of like building him up to be. So yeah, at that point I was like definitely questioning like what's going on with him. I feel like there's
Right.
more going on with him.
It's just
Um,
I'm so conflicted about him because obviously like I've read it and I know what happens, but in the same sense, he like basically in a sense brutalized that Faye, Amarantha's sister. Like
yeah,
he led her on, like he was terrible to her and like tortured her. And
right,
it's just like, how can someone that like says he's a good person do that? And I know like obviously Reese has done terrible things, but to the extent of which he did that to her sister, it still like puts me on a little on edge with him. Like, okay,
right,
you wanted to save the children of the blessed. And then you were saying like how Reese isn't really a bad guy, but in a sense, you still did that, you know?
right.
You still allowed that to happen, and that's I don't know. I don't know how you feel, but like something in the back of my brain, like I don't know if you're morally gray, because to me that's
Well, and he's
over
also the one
the
that like
line.
shot, was it Az, I think, or Cassian, one of the two of them.
Yes,
Yeah,
as
he's the one who shot them in the first one too, or the
right.
second book. So yeah, I don't know. That was kind of sticking in my head. But I guess like what it was reminding me of though is Reese. Like it was reminding me of how Reese had to put on like a mask and he had to like pretend to be somebody he wasn't. And so I guess like that was, I don't know why I picked up on that, I guess, but like that's what it was reminding me of was that like Hybern brought him back to life essentially, right? And like he had to do those things. Like I just felt like he
Well,
somehow
the
had to do
sister
that.
was
Like,
before Hybern.
yeah,
Amaranth, the
that's
sister.
true.
So that's what I mean. Like he went real wrong with her. Like even if she, I don't know, even if she was like a really terrible, horrible person, I just, I don't know. It just kills me slowly. A part of me, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm still
Yeah.
gonna have my wells up with him. Like, we'll see. We'll see how like when the next book comes out,
See
how
how it
we'll
goes. Yeah.
figure it out.
What happens? Yeah.
Um, but so like they have that scene and she sees like that Jurian can't be all bad that we think he is. But then they wake up to the terrible situation, right? Where the twins had went back and they got the children of the blessed and they not only did they kill them, but they like tortured them
Tortured. Yeah.
and killed them. And it just like kind of breaks you because it's like, is there any, will any of them survive? Because she couldn't even protect these people. Like, you know what I mean? She couldn't
Right.
protect these humans. Can she really protect everyone else?
Right. And like I was questioning, like, is she gonna actually make it back? Like, is she gonna make it back okay
Right,
to Reese and to everyone else? So yeah, I don't know. It was like, yeah, it was such a terrible situation. And it was like she was definitely extremely, extremely upset. But yeah, it was just it felt like she was so helpless there too. And like I'm like, I don't know, she's trying to like be in the spring court to like make things happen. But like, yeah, it was so frustrating that like she couldn't protect them when
right,
she was trying like so hard to like try to be gone from Reese to like make some things happen and like help them in this war that's coming, right? And so yeah, I don't know. I just it felt a little bit helpless at that point, I feel like
right. And then I to
helpless.
make matters worse, when she goes back and tells Tamlin, he like doesn't care.
Right.
And he's like, well, we need to do what they tell us to do. And it was just three humans. And but oh, I also forgot because she goes and sends the bog, I don't know what that thing is.
Yeah.
Remember after the twins, so like that's why he's also really upset with her. And she's like, but they tortured and killed these three people. Like I thought, I was like, yeah, you go, girl. Like they got what they deserve. Um,
Right.
but and I was hoping they would take him out, but apparently we weren't that lucky.
Right.
But he just doesn't care or doesn't listen, and he's getting angrier. And then you know, like that she's trying to tip the scales, like she's wanting him to explode at this point because like she's done. The fact that like he doesn't acknowledge the deaths of the three humans, that all the other stuff that he's done, and he explodes like he did the other time. And the previous time when he blew up the study, I think they were in or the dining room, wherever they were in the other book,
Right.
she doesn't shield herself, right? She doesn't use that shield to protect her. So everything that explodes impales her and hits her and hurts her. And all of this is going down, and the guards rush in. And when the guards rush in, they see her like that and they see him. And you can just see that they are pulling farther and farther away from him because this is their curse breaker. This is the person that, as a human, did everything she could
Save
for
them.
this man
Yeah.
and for the rest of the fairy realm. And he just blew up on her. And now she's hurt and they're pissed. Like you can
Hmm.
tell, like they're already looking at him like, what are you doing? What's going on?
Right.
Right?
Why are you doing this? Well, and
Mm-hmm.
Tamlin too, like felt terrible about it as well. Like Tamlin was like, oh my gosh, like what did I do? You know, I feel like
Right.
he I don't know. He felt terrible about it, but also like again, I don't feel like they really talked about it very much after. Like he
Mm.
apologized profusely, but like that was kind of it. That was like sort of the end of the conversation.
But that's
And I
like
just feel
Tamlin's
like,
MO, right? He doesn't talk
yeah,
about stuff. He
yeah,
just like sweeps it under the rug, but that's, you know, in a healthy relationship, that's not how it goes.
right,
Um, but at least like even, but I guess that's another thing. Like he doesn't talk about it. I don't feel like he truly like cares or checks up on her. And Reese is the one who does. Reese is the one that
right,
like reaches down the bond and was like, "Hey, are you okay? Are you hurt?" And like checks in on her. And like, why didn't you do that, Tamlin? Like you should have been the
right,
one to like check up on her and be the one. And like, I just, like Tamlin, you got to learn to deal with trauma.
right. Yes, for sure. It was so frustrating. I am glad that like Reese, because they were trying very hard not to use the bond at that point too, because they didn't want anybody to like sense it. And so I was glad that like Reese did reach out to her too, because it was just like it was hard not seeing how connected they were. And then like they're so far apart and they're like not even using the bond to speak to each other when they were doing it all the time before. And so, yeah, I was glad to see like obviously he cared about her. Like I knew he still cared about her, but it was just nice to see that he was just like, what are you doing? Like, are you okay? But he also like trusted her. Like he was
Hmm.
trusting her to do what she had to do and to be able to come home to him too.
Right.
Like he just, I don't know. I just loved Reese even more because I was just like, he's checking in on her, but he's also not like rushing in to try to get her out either.
Correct.
So I
Correct.
really liked that. I was like, he's trusting her to like do what she had to do to try to help like their whole court and try to help the like
Hmm.
cause of the war and stuff, right? So it was just like, I don't know, that's something that Tamlin would have never done, if they
Hmm.
were still together. I mean, clearly he didn't, right? He didn't even check on her when he's the one who hurt her.
Right.
But yeah, but it was just such a huge difference. Um, and I think that like I feel like this came up like several times throughout the book where like she assumed Reese would react like Tamlin. Like in
Right.
so many situations, she just kept assuming that Reese was going to react like Tamlin, and he repeatedly didn't, right? Like he
Hmm.
repeatedly was just like, "I trust you. Like I'm not going to stop you from doing things. I'm not like controlling you. Like you're your own person. You're the High
Right.
Lady of the court. Like you do what you want to do, but maybe just like run things by me next
Right.
time." So, like with that, I feel like when she left originally, like Reese was maybe a little bit like mad at first, but it's like, can we just like plan things together? Like it's
Right.
fine, go do your thing. But like I appreciated that he was just like he was trusting her enough to go do
Hmm.
what she needed to do.
Correct.
Because that's just she had none of that with Tamlin at all.
Right.
So that was just, but I feel like she's so scarred from her relationship with Tamlin. She
Hmm.
keeps assuming the worst of Reese too, which was also like well, I was glad to see it keep being proven wrong, but I was kind of getting frustrated with
Right.
her for not trusting Reese at certain points too. So
Right.
not this particular situation, but yeah, that just it kept coming up throughout the end. It was kind of like a thread throughout the whole book of like I just feel like the scarring that she had from her relationship with Tamlin, and then just Reese, yeah, repeatedly being
Hmm.
like, nope, do your thing, whatever whatever you're doing, and just like, are you okay? I'm gonna check on you and make sure you're okay, but I'm not gonna
Right.
pull you out unless you ask me to.
Right.
So yeah.
And like this whole deception, right, that she just led them into goes into the next, I don't know if it's the next night or something close to it, but that's when the Naga break in, right? They break
Mhm.
in, that the guard was sleeping, the keys were lost, and Diantha, here she comes again, like this girl. I can't. So here she comes, and I had a vision. They're coming, and they saved the day because of this special vision. But after all this goes down, right, Tamlin brings that guard, and the guard that fell asleep while on duty. And it was the guard that lost his keys, and he's intending to whip him, right?
Right.
This poor guard, and he's sitting. The guard was like, "They're Ianthe's lying. She's actually the one that set up the attack so that she could be the person that saves them."
Well, and I
And
think the guard had been like mind swiped by Anthe, or like he
yes.
had somehow been like he couldn't talk. He wasn't allowed to talk, and Feyre like read his mind and like broke him out of it so he could
Mm-hmm.
speak. Like right before Tamlin was
Yep.
gonna hurt him too. And then like yeah, Feyre was like, no, I will listen to you. Like I want to listen to your story. Yeah.
Right. And then of course Ianthe's like insisting, don't listen to him, Tamlin. He's gonna spit out lies. He's going to do it. Don't do it. And
Well, and she was
of
the one who let them
course,
in.
yeah, of course, who does he listen to? He doesn't listen to Feyre. He listens to
Yeah.
Ianthe. And that I is just like the final straw for me. Like she you're supposed to listen to the person that you want to marry, right? To this great love of yours that you both like burn the world in a sense for each other, and you choose someone else. Like in this scene, you choose someone else and you punish that guard anyways.
Right.
And I just like it's the
Oh, it was
straw.
so
And it
frustrating.
yes, and it's clearly the straw that breaks like the guards back too. Like she was willing to hear them out. She was willing to believe this guy, and Tamlin chose somebody else over them.
Right. Well, and I
Um,
think like partly Pharaoh was playing a part, but not really for that situation in particular. Like I
Correct.
think she sincerely was trying to save the guard.
Yes.
And then she saw like, wow, they really don't trust Tamlin anymore because like if he doesn't trust his own guards, like that's what his message is to his guards, right? Like, I don't trust you. I don't
Right.
believe you. I'm gonna believe some other person over you that
Hmm.
like has not been trying to defend you and like offer up their lives to go across the border to try to like find
Right.
Feyre, right? Like,
That's what I
oh,
mean. Like not only like they have been there, they gave their lives to help break this
to
curse,
him.
and he just doesn't believe them.
Yeah. It
I
was
was
so
just, oh,
frustrating.
it was
So
bad.
frustrating. Yeah. Well, and Feyre does like check on the guard and stuff too. And like I think I don't know. It's sad because like yeah, she really does alienate all of the guards and like all of Tamlin's like people from him. But then I feel like they don't get taken care of. Like
Right.
like nobody helps them after that. Like Feyre like creates the chaos and like plants the seed of like you shouldn't trust Tamlin, but then doesn't really offer them some other like place to go.
Right. I
And
agree with
so
that.
that sort of that really bothered me. Like I was like, okay, fine, like get them in. I mean, rightfully so. I don't think they should trust Tamlin. Like if he
Right.
had done that, but like maybe tell them like, hey, come with me. Like come to Valaris and like
Right.
why don't you come and hang out with my people and like I'll trust you and like let you serve me or whatever. Like
Hmm.
I don't know. That drove me crazy that she just sort of alienated everybody and then dropped the bomb and like walked away sort of
I
in a little
agree.
while. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Tamlin was also like he was digging his own grave here.
Yep. 100%. So I guess after that happens, she has like the trust of the guards, and they even kind of say it to her on the walk back. And then when she wakes up, she has to go again to another hole in the wall. And Alice, of all people, says how she's not going to be there when Feyre gets back this time. That she's taking her nephews and she's leaving the spring court. And
Right,
that's when Feyre knows like she's really done it. People are leaving the court because they no longer have faith in Tamlin.
right.
And
And
that's
Alice helps her like pack up to be able,
mhm,
she's like, I know you're leaving. Like, I know
right.
you're not going to stay here too. Like, which I love Alice. I
I know,
like,
right? She doesn't get enough credit.
no, she doesn't. And she doesn't reappear after this either. And I just kept like hoping like she was going to come back in the picture because I really like Alice or she was like going to go join in Valaris or whatever. I don't know. Maybe she will eventually, but like she did not the rest of this book. So I was frustrated with that. Yes. Because I like her a lot. She's awesome.
Hmm.
But I was glad that she also like she helped Feyre like pack and like even though, you know, she has been serving Tamlin for so long, like I thought it was great that she like loved Feyre enough to like help
Yes.
Feyre. Because I feel like that
Yes.
was a very hard thing for her to decide to do as
Yes.
well.
I agree.
Yeah.
They head towards the wall to this other hole again, having to travel there. And Feyre like finally gets the twins to open up a little bit. Like, why do you care about the holes in the wall? Like, what are you going to do with them? What is Hybern's plans? And they kind of like tell her, right? So they tell her
Yeah.
like how big the army is, like super big, and because they've joined with other countries, places. I don't know how to really call them in this book. Um,
Yeah.
kingdoms, I guess. I don't know. And
Yeah,
that
sure.
they want to use the cauldron at the weak spots, right? So it can like learn why the spots are weak and then bring the whole wall down altogether
Bring the
and
whole wall
attack
down. Yep.
from that spring court, right? Obviously, if they break in from the spring court, then the human world's gone, right? It's
Yeah.
completely gone. There's nothing left. Like they're just going to obliterate them because there's nobody protecting the wall. Like if
Right.
anything, if we're going to really fight this war, it was going to be Tamlin's court. That was the last court standing, basically. And now, if they do go to war, it's going to be right on human lands or right at the edge of human lands, like kind of like the worst
Right.
place ever. You don't want the war to be on human lands because you don't want the humans to get hurt.
Right.
But at least in the sense that they gave us all this information, Feyre knows
Yep.
that, like, hey, I'm good. It's time. I tore apart the spring court, right? People are leaving the spring court. Guards don't trust Tamlin anymore. Ianthe is not seen as this all holy person. And she's like, it's time for me to leave.
Right.
So, like, she gets her little sack and she is trying to, like, sneak out.
Well, and
And
something that happened this time was that Tamlin went with them because he didn't trust Lucian too.
right,
So Tamlin and Ianthe decided they were going to go with them to the wall this time. So they were actually both there this time too. Yeah.
right.
So she like takes her Zach and she's like, I'm gonna leave. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
as she's walking away. But also she had eaten an apple while she was talking to them too.
Yes. Yep.
And
So,
then,
well, we're hold on.
yep, go
Because
ahead.
when she's running away, she stops, right? She wasn't planning on stopping. She had no quorum. She was leaving all these people in the dirt. But what stops her again, because she's so selfless, is the fact that she hears Ianthe attacking Lucian, right? That
Yes.
she hears Lucian to tell Ianthe to back off. Like he has a mate. He doesn't want anything to do it. And she almost turns around, like she almost keeps going, but she decides she has to go back, right? Like she's going back to Lucian, though kind of in a sense he doesn't deserve it, but we do know like she still has a soft spot for him deep down. And sure enough, she gets there and Lucian's bound, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Ianthe plans to like have her way with him. And it's just like,
Right.
oh, if you did it, if you still for some reason like this girl, you shouldn't after this part because it's just like
No.
proof that she pushes herself onto anyone and everyone she wants. And that was hinted at that like if
Right.
she wants you, it doesn't matter. She's going to get you because she's this all-powerful being, right?
Right.
And if she wants you, that's it. It's over with.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know how that seemed like it broke me a little bit. Like I was like, no, don't do that
I
to
was
Luke.
so glad that Pharaoh went back for him because
Mhm.
like, yeah, I also just like I said, I have a soft spot for Lucian too. And like I'm like, none of this is his fault. Like he was trying to like follow what Tamlin said. And like, I mean, if he's your high lord, you kind of have to, right? Like, so I mean, on one hand, like I was frustrated that he didn't stand up for her in some of these situations, but also like he wasn't the one who caused them either. And
Right,
he does like, I think when she goes back, like I feel like he and her like bond in a different way than they had before, even. So I was glad that she like went back and saved him. Yeah, and
right. And
stopped
it's kind of like
Andy.
a shock to him too, because right, she doesn't really show how powerful she is. Like it's a little hinted at here and there, but not truly like she's now like this bad person. Like she's like this
Mm-hmm.
badass in a sense, because then she like breaks into Ianthe's mind and like makes her unshackle Lucian and then smash her hand a whole bunch of times and says that like you can have a healer heal the bones, but all the scarring has to stay. Like you're going to learn you are not allowed to ever touch another person without their permission again. And I was just like, yes, thank you. Thank you for standing up by that. But then, of course, this kills her time, right? She
Yeah.
can't get out, and the twins find her. And that's when they like break and say, like, they had been plotting just as Feyre has this whole time.
Yes.
And then she noticed the headaches that she was getting, which she mentions throughout this part one, right? She mentions how her head is hurting and she must be overdoing it, protecting their brains from the twins all the time and using her powers more than she should. So, like, she has these headaches, and come to find out that it's not that. it's because they were slowly poisoning her. Like the apple that she ate that you talked about
Right.
was like a big apple full of poison or whatever it is that like dulls their powers, but they have been slowly like feeding it to her. And that's where the
Mm-hmm.
headaches were coming from. And this last like dose of
Huge
it
dose of it. Yeah.
was going to be like what broke Feyre's back. And that's why they kind of didn't care about telling her the plans, right? Because they're like, oh, well, we already just dosed you with all this drugs that you're not going to be able to use your power. So we don't care if you know our plan because they were going to take her, you know?
Right. Yeah. They're like, yeah, you have about 5 minutes left before you're like powerless. And they dosed everybody else too, right? So they dosed
Yep.
Tamlin and Anthe and Lucian. So all of them are going
Yes.
to be powerless like extremely soon. Yeah.
Yes. So then she goes on the offensive. Like she knows that she's starting to lose her power. And I think this shows like how powerful she was
Mm-hmm.
because she's doused with this. I can't remember what it's called. Fabane, right? Yes, Fabane.
Fabane. Yep.
She's she's dosed with this, right? And she still winnows and she kills the one twin. Boy twin?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So she
First.
winnows
Yep.
and she kills him and like she's just like kicking butt, taking names, even though
Right.
she's losing like her ability to use her powers. And I
Right.
just feel like in a sense, is I feel like she's truly on level with Reese and his abilities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I know Reese is the like strongest High Lord there has ever been, but I
Yeah.
feel like this proves that Feyre is his equal. Like she can hold her own,
Right.
even though like she was dosed with all of this stuff.
Right.
So obviously she gets them away, right? So she stabs the one. Right? Yes. And then Lucian gets the other guy, gets the
Yes.
female.
Mm-hmm.
So they start running away, and Lucian goes with her because
Yeah. Lucian
one,
asked, like, take me with you. Yeah.
right, right, because one, he knows that they're gonna get really big consequences from Highburn. And
Right.
I think Lucian is also kind of in the mindset of the guards at this point, like, will Tamlin protect me?
Right.
Because I don't know if he will at this point. He doesn't believe me about anything. Like he doesn't believe me that I won't go after Feyre. Like, come on,
Right.
dude. Um, so
Yeah.
I think he like sees it like he's got to get out of there, and he also knows if he goes with her, he can seize me, right?
Right.
And but they don't. She's losing her power now at this point. Like no matter how powerful she is, that Faybane is in her blood. She's not going to make it. She's not going to be able to winnow them back to the night court. She's not even going to be able to winnow them very far.
Yeah. She
So,
also can't communicate with Reese either. Like their bond is like shut off at that point, so she can't even call for
yes,
help.
yes, she
Yeah.
can't call for help.
Which
She
was
can't.
like, oh, that like I don't know, really got to me because I was like, I don't know, just feeling like cut off like that, like
Uh-huh.
just I don't know, because they were far apart from each other, right? But they could at least still like communicate, and so the fact that she had like that taken away, um, I don't know, that really like I was like, oh no, like I was very worried about like both of them, like are they gonna make it? Like
Right.
what's gonna happen? Like yeah, and they had to
Right.
try to get through like other courts to try to get back because they had to like essentially walk the whole way.
Yep. And that's where like this part ends, right? And they know that they can't winnow, that no one's coming to save them. Like Reese might feel the break in the bond or like that something's wrong with it,
Hmm.
but he won't know where they are. He can't
Right.
go into spring court without causing even more of a stir, right? And that's why
Hmm.
Moore had to save her the first time, even though let's be real, if Reese was really that worried, he's probably going in there anyways.
Yeah.
But but
Very
like
true.
so they have to go through foot and they go through the caves and they're going to the place Lucian doesn't want to ever go again. And that's the Autumn Court, his homeland,
Right.
where he was forced to leave. And that's where they end. Like they're going into Autumn Court. Here we go.
Yeah.
I just that part, I like, there's no way you could like just end there. Like if she ended the book there, I probably would have lost it. Like, no, 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 you can't just no.
Right.
So like reading part two is obviously going to like up the game, and then part three goes even more. But I guess now that you read all three parts, even though where like what did you think was going to happen? Like, did you have any foresight of like they're going in the autumn court, this is what I think is going to happen?
I wasn't sure. I was hoping they could just like get in and like be undetected and like kind of hide from everybody. But yeah, I don't know. I was very worried about both of them, or that like one of them would be killed, or maybe just Lucian would be killed or something, like because they weren't sure what was going to happen with the like mating bond and things like that too. And so I'm like, what's going to happen? Or that
Mhm.
somebody would come try to save them and then they would get hurt. So yeah, I don't know. I also just feel like, I don't know, like I said, I love Lucian. Like he's one of my favorites. So I was just like, this has got to be like so hard for him to be going back and, know that he left this place, right? And he hasn't been back since.
Right.
So like at least he knew the area, but like that had to just be like pure emotional turmoil for him to go back
Yes.
to. Yeah.
Yes. So
It
we
was
are
tough.
definitely going to have to talk about part two and then obviously part three. So if you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, join our community of fellow bookworms.
Because here at Bound by Fantasy, the adventure never ends. See you next time.
See you. See you for part two.